I'd like to thank the Trans Dinarica for the opportunity to share my experience cycling across all of the 8 Balkan countries by bike. Uh, I'm lucky to have an infinite amount of time, so I wasn't really worried about timing. But before we get started on my electric bike, I'll just give you the quick rundown. I bought a regular touring bike in Amsterdam in 2022. So since then, I've ridden a bike in Cuba, Japan, Colombia, Europe, Georgia, and Armenia. And this was before I got onto the cycling. Here's the bike, what it looks like. I bought it at a shop that I can't pronounce in Amsterdam. So today we're going to talk about a few topics I have listed here. We'll start with logistics, planning, the Trans Dinarica Navi packs, accommodations, buses, restaurants, communications on the road, and the TD website. This is a crucial point, I believe, of your experience. So we'll get into that later. I can also tell you about my e-bike for all you biking nerds. I have some good information about my e-bike, about riding the bike, charging the bike. Then we're going to move on to difficult stages, plenty of them, and some stunning highlights. So we'll start off with logistics. I live in Plovdiv in Bulgaria. The closest trailhead of the route from where I live is in Skopje, North Macedonia. So people ask me, how do you plan your routes and what do you use? Well, I used to use Komoot, but since TD made a deal with a ride with GPS, I was forced into the planning of ride with GPS. So it turned out to be great, and now I use it, and it's easy to work with. So I made my own route to arrive in Skopje. Now, if you haven't looked at the website is professionally done with an excellent interactive map. In fact, if you take a look at the map, and what we have here is a map, and you have this green line, which is your ride with GPS line. Once you click on that, it opens a different screen that takes you right to where you want to be for this particular route. This is one of the reasons why I decided to go with the TV packs. The amount of work that they've done is tremendous. And, if you're the type of person who plans his own route all the time, I love the idea that somebody did the heavy lifting for me. So that's what I love. And you can really dig into their website. There's an enormous amount of information. So people ask or want to know, how are you navigating? So I purchased the Navi packs, and I ran the GPS app directly off of my phone. It's a seamless integration. And this is what it looks like right on my phone screen. And like I say, it was seamless. You can see the arrow. My phone is right here, and I could just look at my route just exactly there. So I don't use Garmin. I just don't like Garmin. I don't use it. I used Strava, and Strava was just to tell me how many miles and elevation I do for the day. So and the The navigational pack. I read on the TD webpage, and people love to complain, and they complain about the price. But if you're looking at these packs, we're not looking at price. We're looking at experience and value and a lot of work behind the scenes. This is what gave me the idea to do this. They spent a lot of time on the road, making these routes. You could see pictures from a year ago, 2 years ago. So, I highly recommend these packs.
Hello?
Huh?
Ah, okay. For 10 seconds, you were off. Sorry to disturb
Okay.
you. Maybe it was just me.
This
So,
year, you have updated accommodations, restaurants, POIs. On the road last year, I sent Matthias, dozens of recommendations for accommodations all along the way. And then he turned them in to the social media people who updated that. So by this time, when you're getting it, you're really getting a better product than the one I had. However, I can tell you from my own experience, when you go to these places, if you make, other than a hotel, if you make a call, maybe there's nobody there. Nobody speaks English. There's no one at the location. The hotel has a phone number on the door, which really irritates me. So you want to be proactive. Find people on the street to help you out. Go to the business next door. You're not the first person there to ask about the accommodation next door, I can assure you. So, you know, be proactive, talk to people. Where are you going to stay? This is always a good question. Now, if we go back and take a look right here, you can see on the map that they have different little icons. Some icons are for, drinking water, coffee, restaurants. You can't see the other icons, which are hotels. But in my experience, you've got to get out and, really see what's happening. I'm 66 years old and I still like to stay in hostels. I've stayed in hostels for years. You can also use booking.com. It's very popular. Camping and also warm showers. If you don't know warm showers, have a look on the internet, warmshowers.org. On your Ride with GPS map, you can find maps here. You got a Google map, a hybrid map, the OSM map. They show a different experience. What bothers me about Google Map is you can pinch in or out, and one time you see the hotel, the next time you don't. So I use a different maps. Now, before you buy you buy your certain section, wherever you're going to go, whatever country you're going to use. If it's possible, you should open this up and search everything on the laptop or the desktop before you go. And this gives you a good idea of what you're going to come across. And there's a lot of planning. So I bought the maps in January, and I spent the next couple of months going over all of the maps for all of the countries just to get a good idea of what was located where and what did I want to see. I'll type the word camping into the Google map. So the first thing I do is I will pull up a restaurant. Let's say I'm going to pull up a hotel that I see on here. And once I pull up the hotel and I have the map open, I don't look at the hotel. I type camping in. So at this point, I'll get the hotels and any campsites on Google that are in this area. People have had questions about camping and should I bring a tent? You know, if you want to save money, you bring a tent. If you want to meet people, bring a tent. You like a campground, you can walk around and talk to people, other cyclists, people on vacation. That's why I bring a tent. Now, people want to know about the bus and the train and these things. So I rode my bike from Bulgaria to Skopje. Most bus drivers won't take my electric bike because it appears too big. It is big and it's bigger than the average touring bike, there's no doubt. And people ask about the Flex bus. What is it? Flix. I've never taken it. I never will. They have a reputation. It's up and down. They say they'll take your bike, but then when you get there, they don't take it. The driver makes a decision. Maybe they don't have any room for it. There's no place to put it on the bus. There's 100 problems with buses. Maybe your experience is better than mine. One could only hope. People talk about restaurants, and the first guy who did that first webinar, he liked to eat the barrex, this pastry type of bread thing. Yeah, I don't care for it. I don't care for pastries and breads, so you know, that wasn't my deal. I stopped in the cafes, and what I found to be either on the menu or not on the menu always was goulash. So if you're in the middle of nowhere and you have no food and you're at a cafe and they have goulash with meat in it and you don't eat meat, well, just dip your bread into goulash, eat the bread, and move on. What I do is I buy a lot of food in markets. That way I can eat what I want. And this is interesting when I found out about this. So I have this little jar here with a line on it. This couscous can be made in water and you don't have to cook it. And this is great when you're in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the day and you're hungry. I always have this couscous with maybe some tomatoes, and I just make this and eat it right there on the side of the road. It's great for wild camping, but I don't cook. I'm not interested in cooking. I don't have the cooking stuff. And mind you, since I have an electric bike, I don't do a lot of wild camping either. But it's still, for me, it's the easy way to go. For breakfast, I eat oatmeal every morning. Now, here's a good point, a really good tip, and you should take this to heart. Communications. People want to know, you know, am I going to meet somebody on the road? How can I make friends? This is what people want to do. You know, I like to see other cyclists on the road. It's nice. What you want to do is you want to get on the Trans Dinarica Traveler group page. This is an old photo. It says you have 2,000 members. I would tell you this, maybe less than 20 or 30 people who actually wrote on that during the summer when I was there back and forth. But with the cyclists on the webpage, you can meet them on the road. You see the arrow here, this girl right here, Sasha. She's the person who did the last webinar before me. We were on the webpage talking about the roads and the conditions and what it was like, you know, and should I do it? So we talked to each other a half a dozen times, and then we met on the road because we were going in opposite directions. So, you know, get on the webpage and tell people, hey, I'm in Slovenia and I'm starting here. But here's a key point right down here. Start with the stage name. Don't just say I'm in, Stillwater and I'm headed towards the next town, because no one knows where that is and no one's going to answer you. Put the stage name down. Go, hey, I'm on the Alt TD SRB, stands for Serbia 04, and I'm going down the road and it looks really bad and it's very difficult to push your bike. I wouldn't come here. That's what you should write on the webpage, because now everybody knows where it is. If you just write a town name, no one's going to bother to look for that town name out of 8 countries. Here's another point of communications. So I'm traveling down the road and I come across the Kiwi convention. I've never met so many people from New Zealand. It was great. There must be a lot of advertising in New Zealand. So if you interact with cyclists on the webpage, they'll know who you are when you meet. I'm riding down the road and I see these 2 people and they're coming towards me and we stop and the guy says, hey, aren't you Dave? I've seen you on the webpage. So, then you can talk to them about where they were, where they stayed, tell them about how your ride was. And the 2 of us met again at a campground later on. So get out there and make some friends on the webpage while you're riding. Here's another communication story. Now look at these smiling faces. These 2 girls, French girls. So we were in a town, maybe 2 hours from Lake Ohrid. And we were staying in different places. I was staying in a hotel, and actually, they were just sitting in the cafe waiting for it to stop raining. And we had stayed at the same camp previously. So I walk in the cafe, and I see them their bikes out front. I go, hey, are those your bikes? And this girl right here, she goes, hey, aren't you that guy on the electric bike? We had stayed at the same camp before. It's called Camp Helson. And once again, you look up here and you say, where is that? Here it is right here. Albania, the route 09, Peshkovi. Here it is, Camp Helson. So the guy that runs this camp is a funny man. He's a real, he's a real riot. So we had a good laugh. And then he was telling these girls, hey, if you're going that way, you'll see this crazy guy on the electric bike. So they were headed down to Lake Ohrid, and I said, well, I'm not going to go there because it planned to rain for the next 4 days. So I said, no, thanks. Now, for the cycling nerds, people who are going to buy a bike, rent a bike, my bike is made by a company called Koga. It's from the Netherlands. And the first bike I showed you was also a Koga. This bike is a Koga and it's electric. World Traveler e-bike. So the reason why I bought this one was because it's a belt drive bike. I never heard of it. So I read up on the bike and said, wow, that seems pretty cool. So it's a belt drive bicycle. It has 14 gears. There's a roll-off speed hub with a Bosch motor. Now, if you don't know what a roll-off speed hub is, I can't explain it to you very well. I'm not really a bike nerd, but there are very interesting videos on YouTube that shows how the speed hub works. It's fascinating. And the Bosch motor. So, the Bosch and the roll-off hubs are both from Germany. So, they're well-made products. The wattage of the battery is 740 watts. If the bike is halfway down the battery, it'll take maybe an hour and a half to recharge it. If it's all the way down in the red, it could take 4 hours to charge it. People want to know, how far can you go on a charge? Well, if you're in the Netherlands and it's flat, you could go 100 kilometers or more. If you're going 70 kilometers and rolling hills, you're going to have to find somewhere to charge it. This takes you back to talking to people on the road. I stopped at farms and asked people on the farm. I don't speak their language, but I just show them the red light on the battery, and they look at me and they go, "Oh, I got to help this old man out." That's why I grew the goatee, so people will think I'm old and helpless. Yeah, it works. Something else about the bike is that it has 84 Newton torque. Now, I had no idea what this was before, but apparently this is what really drives the bike. A fully loaded bike like this probably weighs nearly 80 kilos. The bike itself is 30 kilos, which is really a lot. And then you got 30 or 40 kilos of bags. And apparently I weigh more than 40 kilos. So all that together is going to be, who knows, 150 kilos? I don't know, but it's a lot. So the Newton torque is really what drives the bike, especially up the hill. I went up hills with a 14% grade. The bike just went right up like a billy goat. Now, the top speed is 26 kilometers an hour. There is a governor on the bike. That's the law, I guess, in Europe. But nothing good happens over 26 miles an hour anyways. So I don't need to go that fast. I go slow and enjoy myself. But what do you say about when the bike runs out of the battery? I've never run completely out of the battery to begin with, but I have ridden this bike on the flats with no power just to save battery. The bike sails along like a breeze on the flatlands with no battery. So you can save battery if you see big hills coming up by just pedaling along. So I found that to be pretty interesting. Where do you charge your bike? Everywhere. The picture here says midday charging. This is a people's house right on the side of the road. I just went to their house. I was ringing my bell. They look out the window. Who's that guy? They come outside. They don't speak English. I show my little red light and they go, "Oh, okay." Back behind the little wooden barn door, they got a little outlet there. I plugged the bike in and the lady brings me out a cup of coffee. So I sit there for an hour and a half, charge the bike, and then I go. Another place, I stopped at this convenience store. Here's the woman in the garage. At the convenience store, I go in, I look around, I buy something to drink. And then, I motion for her to come outside and I show her the bike and the red light. And she says, "Oh," she opens up the garage door, plugs my bike in. So I sit there for an hour or so. I come across a restaurant and a cafe in the middle of nowhere, and they've got this beautiful charging port. Like, look at that. So I sat down there and, I had something to eat at the cafe and charged the bike. So you've got to look around, you've got to talk to people, you have to butt into people's lives. That's what you have to do. Because I can tell you what, you're not pushing that bike up any hill at all. That is for sure. Now, we'll look at some difficult stages. Now, I like this picture on the left here. That looks like me after a bad day. I'm in Sarajevo. Sarajevo is a great town. I was there for 5 days, just taking a rest and, tried to decompress. Because I had to ride my bike to Slovenia because they wouldn't take it on the bus or the train. But to be clear, everyone has a different view of what is difficult. I don't like gravel. It's hard riding and it hurts my back. Just going over those bumps all day long, it's just not good for my back. And if the gravel's loose, even if you're going slow or fast, the bike bogs down and seems to just fall over in loose gravel. Maybe I don't know how to ride in gravel, but I don't like it. Speaking of things that I don't like, here is the bane of my existence. Now, what I say about the updated files and updated writing on the internet where they describe all of the sections, you're getting a much more realistic view of what's happening on the road than I had the first time out. The original writings was very rosy and everything was fabulous and there was no problem. So, so I saw this, here we are again, it says alternate. And I said, only 15 kilometers. What could go wrong? Well, everything. So it's Serbia 04, Dinarica to Plovdiv. It's only 15 kilometers. And here, you take the road, look the road here. It doesn't look bad, but it's a lot worse than it looks. And there's a beautiful bridge you could push your bike across. That was a nice view. So I come out of the city and I'm headed up this road, which is already a steep grade with loose gravel. What I should have turned back there. So over here, you see this woman and you see this man. Now the path, which is not a path at all, it was just grown up bushes and grass. And I'm pushing behind these people's house and they look out their back window and they probably say, hey, here's one of them crazy guys again on his bike. Where the hell is he going? So the woman gives the man this plate of food to give to me. And they're giving me food for the trek, which I called the Last Supper. So here's a good tip for this section of the road. And Mateus maybe can tell you something else later on, but here's a good tip. Pay a taxi driver to take your bags to the Maltiva restaurant and villas. Leave them there, and then you can ride and push your bike through those 15 kilometers. At no point should you ever think it's a good idea to take any bags at all on this route. I've done a lot of hard riding, and this was by far the hardest I've ever done. I must have pushed my bike halfway. Finally, I just stopped and put up the tent. And I say, well, I'll go tomorrow. And the next day was even worse. So finally, I come to the end of the line. And you can see right here, you're supposed to push your bike up here to get to the restaurant. Now, if you're over here, it's a one grassy area, but it looks like about a 25% grade pushing your bike up the grass. So I left my bike at the bottom of the restaurant to get some help. Yeah, well, I'm very lucky because the guy inside running the restaurant, it looks like some bodybuilder. So he just goes down, picks the bike up from a dead squat with the bags and everything, and just walks right up the hill with it. And I'm thinking, yeah, I should have hired him to take the last 15 kilometers, for God's sake. But, at the end of the day, it's all just laughs and beautiful pictures and a sore back. So I stayed here. I stayed here for 3 nights. I was completely exhausted. Oh, man. So, stories to tell later on in life, you can only laugh if you're still alive. Here's another stage. Montenegro. The stage here, Peja to Rojanji. Well, I always mispronounce these names. It's not a hard stage, but it's 1,300 meters of switchback climbing. So somewhere in the middle of this, I stopped at a farmhouse and, charged my bike. Now, these are not difficult stages. In fact, they look beautiful. I don't mind riding on these stages too much. But what I can tell you is, on a stage like this, it's always going to take a lot more time. In Serbia, I always carry more water. I have 2 water bottles, but 2 water bottles aren't going to last 70 kilometers when 30% is unpaved and you're crawling like a snail. So always make sure you have extra water. So that's why we say plan ahead. Talk to people. Find out who did this stage. How long did it take? Was there any place to get any water? No, there wasn't. Look at that road. It goes on forever. So plan ahead, talk to people, get on the internet, get on the web page. Here's another lovely stage. To me, I don't call this, I don't call these route stages. Now, if you like gravel biking, that's fine. It's, it was not my cup of tea. And like I say, it's going to take a lot longer to do this stage than it would a flat, nice stage. I don't even, like rolling hills are great, but this stage, boy, this kills me. In this stage here, it shouldn't even be a stage. This is the Slovenia 01 Tolment and Nova Gorcia. It started to rain. The rocks were slick. Yeah, I couldn't even walk up this stage. Every, how your shoes are, right? Cycling shoes. So you take your bags off and you take them up to the top and then you go back down and get your bike. It took forever. Hey, maybe people have more skill than I do, but it wasn't working out for me. It took forever to do that stage. And really, it's not a road at all. So that's why I say this year, maybe there's some changes and your stages might look better. When it comes to difficult stages, this is why I'm on the internet talking to people about stages, and I've talked to these people and, they've met me and they said, oh, you better not go there if you don't like what's happened so far. Don't go there. And I said, okay. Here we are again with the stage. This is Bosnia-Herzegovina, number 7, Banja Basta to Klokjak or whatever that is, 43% unpaved. Well, I've had some bad days and I'm not going. I don't care. I'm not going. So if you're in Banja Basta, you can stay at the Mystic Hostel. It's a beautiful spot, a huge backyard. It's a great spot to stay. So what I did was I followed the map, the TD map, all the way down to here. It's about 18 kilometers or so. And I noticed there's another route that's going to take me all the way back up. Now it's a lot longer, but it's going to be a smoother ride and it's going to be better for me. It turned out to be a beautiful winding mountain road. I stopped at this farmhouse to charge my battery. And there's a husband and wife there, they look my age, but out of the house comes a younger woman who's their daughter. If she's just there for a couple of days on vacation, and I'm talking to her in English, and she says, yeah, come on in and charge your bike. And then I sat down for this huge lunch with these people. So, I'm like looking good. It's a nice road, a beautiful mountain road. I get a lunch. So this is how life goes. Stop and talk to people. Now here's a route. You can only go one way. So, it's got nothing to do with anybody. This is how you get there. Albania, from Schroeder to Dushov via the ferry. Now, if you're lucky, the road will be finished by the summer of 2026. This is a road right there with a little arrow points down. Yeah, I shared the road with dump trucks and front end loaders. Now, if you don't like riding on the road with traffic, riding on a road with dump trucks next to you is not going to make your day. So I wrote on the website last year, I don't know if it's the same this year. In my opinion, cycling from Schroeder to catch the ferry in the morning is pure fantasy. Once you get there, there's maybe 2 hotels to stay at and a couple of campgrounds. I stayed at a place called Briz of the Drin. It's a guest house and camping. They have a couple of rooms you can rent, or they have plenty of camping. And they also make food. So she had a dinner, €5. It was a great spot. Great spot. The next day, you get up, pack your stuff away. So what you do, it's easy to find. You can't miss the entrance. You go over here. And this entrance here, you're going to ride your bike through the entrance with other cars, because that's how you get to the ferry landing. You go through the tunnel to get to the ferry landing. The tunnel's not very long. And further down, I have some other pictures of the ferry ride. But we come down here now to some stunning highlights. But before we get to stunning highlights, let's take a back up here and say, how about this road? Maybe you love this style of cycling. Maybe you do, and it'll be great for you. Maybe you love this style of cycling. It'll be great for you, and I hope you have a great time. It wasn't for me. You just want to know what's coming. What's coming. This style of cycling is great. It's going to take longer for anybody really on the dirt than it would on a smooth road. If this is your style, then you're going to have a great time. Maybe you love this. Yeah, more power to you. So I don't want it to sound, like really negative, but hey, if you like this, then you're going to have a great day. So I don't take videos, and I don't have like a GoPro and that kind of stuff, just because I don't want to fool with it. So all the pictures I've taken so far are from the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Yes, this picture right here is from my phone. It's amazing what the phone will do. And this is what you see after your 15 kilometers of unbelievably difficult cycling. This is what you look at. So these pictures aren't really in order. So this one is Croatia 02. This is called Camp Bunica. And again, you want to look at these numbers right here, tell you exactly where it is, where to find it. Some beautiful pictures here. It's a lovely beach, but the beach is filled with rocks and stones. So my cousin is watching this, and we grew up on a beautiful sand beaches down in Daytona Beach. So when somebody tells me they have a beautiful beach and it's rocks, we always laugh. So we're going to move along here. I look at the time. Let's move along, and we'll get to some questions, because it's already 1:45. Mom always said I could talk the ears off of a dead cow. So this is the Drin Canyon. Once you get on the ferry, this is what you're going to see. It's just an absolutely beautiful ride on that ferry. This is the camp at the end of the area down here. It's a down and back, unless you want to push your bike over the mountain. Beautiful sunsets. This is the last picture going back into North Macedonia and back to Bulgaria. You can look at the leaves. I stayed out past my bedtime, 5.5 months. So just to tell you, I'm 66 years old. My bike weighs 30 kilos. Altogether, it must be well over 100 kilos. So I rode the bike more than 4,000 kilometers. It's 55,000 meters of climbing and more than some pushing.
Sorry, David. You hear me?
Yeah,
So one question from my side. Do you already know how to use the walk function on your e-bike?
yeah.
You know that this works? Did you use
I,
this on the trail?
I used it on the trail and it didn't function as well as one would hope
Uh-huh.
on rocks, on slip rocks, and loose gravel. It didn't function as well.
Ah, okay.
I think it's mainly for a flat road. It's mainly for the flat road. So I've got a couple of questions that people have asked, and I'll answer those. And then if you have more questions, you can answer those. But I want to tell you, though, I wrote a book about this, and it's on Apple Books. You can put your phone onto this code, or you can copy the code on the screen. And the book, it includes all 8 countries and is broken down by routes and places I stayed. So if you want to give that a read, it's an interesting book. It's a good book. And the book costs $1.99. And I'll tell you, somebody said to me, they go, "Well, can you give me a discount?" And I said, "Yeah, don't buy it." I made the book for my own. I made the book for my own, on my own purpose, so I could share the pictures with my brother, share it with my cousins. And Matthias looked at the book and said, "Hey, this is great. I'll put it on the webpage and maybe people want to buy it." So if you have an iPhone, you can download the book. I don't have it on, the other phones. It's only on that one. So some questions. Let's start off with the first one about Lake Bled. Matthias, what can you tell us about Lake Bled?
Yeah, somebody asked, maybe I already answered on one of the previous webinars, but this connector stage will be added to Trans Dinarica navigation pack in next 2 weeks, hopefully. We were waiting for some information. One large part from Lake Bled to Lake Bohin is still under construction because they didn't get some permissions, but it will be open soon. So we're adding this soon, and it's going to be connection from Austria, from Villach to Tolmin down to start of Trans Dinarica. So this will be added soon, in maybe a week or two.
All right, that's great. So you can look in your chats, and there's a link in the chat that takes you directly to the Apple if you want to look at the book. Also, let's look at another question here. Where could you direct me to just route and map information? Well, we discussed this earlier. Get on the web page and you can see a map for every country and all the routes right there. And if you buy the routes, then you have them on your TD. But you can look at them as I showed at the beginning of the presentation. The interactive map is absolutely fabulous. The third question is, I love this question because this is my mantra for years. Did you find people along the way to be friendly? And Jim Morrison has a great question, has a great answer for this. Jim Morrison and Robbie Krieger, they have a great song. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faceless look ugly when you're alone. Now think about this. People are strange when you're a stranger. That's why I say stop and talk to people. Say hi to everybody on the road. Get out. Get out of yourself, get out of your comfort zone, and talk to people you don't know. it's possible you come from a country where that's not really what's done. But, you know, when you're on the road, you got to talk to people. The last question we got here, how big was the battery? Easy charging. What plugs do you need? Well, since you can't fly with a bicycle battery, my guess is you're already in Europe and that's the only plug you need. So I don't know what else to tell you there.
I think that's, yeah,
I
I
bought
think
the
you
bike in Europe.
answered, yeah, that you already answered the rest, how big was
Yeah,
your battery and so on. I
yeah,
I
all
would
that.
add here, I wouldn't go with smaller than 600 battery, because now you can buy a new bike with 700 and even 800, and this is what you need because of there's lots of climbing. And there's one more question. Did you have any security issues?
None. None. I have two bike locks actually, big locks. And it's an interesting question because, you know, where did you stay? I would stop at a hotel and I would ask them, hey, do you have a safe place for my bike? And they'd say no. And I go, well, can I just push it in here and leave it on the side of the lobby? And they would go, no. And I said, okay, do you mind if I get your name? And they would go, why? I go, well, I'm going to write it down and I'm going to write the hotel name down. And then I'm going to send it to the company so that they can tell all the other cyclists not to come to this hotel. And if the people speak English, they usually find a place to put your bike almost immediately. So, you know, it's kind of a tricky way, but I would not stay at a hotel that didn't have safe bike parking. I would just go somewhere else.
Okay. We are now 50 minutes into this webinar, which should be half an hour, 40 minutes.
That's
I
because I
enjoyed a
talked too
lot.
much.
Luckily, I could shut off my microphone because I was laughing a couple of times listening to you. I will just add a few short comments on what you said to explain a couple of things. Maybe about you were pointing out this hard section from Tolmin to Nova Gorica. This is first stage of Slovenia, and it's only, I know it's hard, but it's only maybe 200 meters. That's because there was a landslide a couple of years ago. They have it planned to be fixed, but it didn't happen yet. So unfortunately, it's still there, and I can imagine pushing big electric bike is really not easy. Option B is going on the main road, which can be a bit more busy, especially in the summer. Otherwise, I have to say that David was really helpful last year. He was sending us information directly from the road. He was telling, you know, this is hard, this is nice, this is, you know, this hotel was nice. So a lot of those text, these descriptions of stages were fixed also because of him. And since November last year, when we released the third, so Trans Dinarica 3.0, all those descriptions are a bit less, let's say, optimistic. So we try to be real, but if it says it's going to be hard stage, it will be hard. So don't think it's going to be easy. And that's why I think it's important to read the website. Website is built for you, for those who want to ride. And if you buy maybe just the navigation, the basic navigation pack, which is just GPX, just navigation, you still need to read the descriptions, because otherwise navigation, your Garmin might take you somewhere where you don't want to be. That's why in any case, either if you buy the pack or if you go on your own, just read the description. This is I would just add this and then we're finished. In my opinion, I was thinking this when I was going back from work today. I believe e-bikes are the best electric vehicles of this era. And why? Because, you know, when you go with an electric car, you still carry 2,000 kilos of things you need to move. With e-bike, you only, you know, the battery only needs to move some 25 kilometers of weight. The rest is you. So I think it's really nice way to, you don't need a lot of energy to move easier than you would go on a regular bike. But on the other hand, many people that wouldn't go on a trip like this can go. So I really support people to go. You have to prepare, like David said, you have to read the text, you have to check what's ahead of you so you avoid 15 kilometers in Serbia where you push the bike all the time. By the way, this was really overgrown where David was there. We were in early spring and it wasn't as bad as it was like. I think if you don't have any more questions, we can stop. This was the longest of 4 webinars. I'm sure we could listen David's stories for another few hours, but hopefully we'll meet again because he's going on a biking trip and he'll be not so far from here. So maybe we'll meet live. David, thank you for your time, for your presentation. And to anybody else, if you have any questions, send them via email. Otherwise, the season is now really starting in Slovenia, in the whole area. So looking forward for another great season. You want to say something, David?
Hey, have fun this summer.